Have you heard of the P-52s and the P-47s? Do you know what that is? They're us from the future. They're from here. They are you. They are me. They're from here, from the future. P-4.
The clip is real. In 2020, Amy Eskridge described P-47 and P-52 as people from Earth, returning from two different points in our future. Her words can be verified in the recording. The existence of either future population cannot. No public sample, document, or repeatable experiment confirms the claim. The theory calls them ultraterrestrials, not beings from another planet, but descendants of humanity whose point of origin is the Earth itself. Eskridge worked around advanced propulsion ideas. Anti-gravity has never been publicly demonstrated, but gravity and time are linked by established physics. In the version that spread online, P-47 means the present plus 47,000 years. P-52 means the present plus 52,000 years. These are not two species arriving from separate worlds. They are two branches of the same family, shaped by incompatible ways of surviving. The story begins with a global catastrophe. Its cause changes between accounts: war, environmental collapse, or several systems failing at once. No primary source gives a testable date. The disaster is simply placed somewhere ahead of us, close enough for our choices to matter. One population seals itself below the surface. Artificial light, closed habitats, and strict control become the price of remaining on Earth. Another population escapes outward. Fragile settlements on the Moon and Mars eventually grow into a civilization independent of the planet below. Both branches remember the same ancestor, us. Every encounter would therefore be a meeting between present humanity and one of its possible descendants. 47,000 years later, the underground branch lives in enormous sealed habitats. Daylight survives only as history, simulation, and biological memory. The theory connects this environment to the familiar gray appearance: fragile bodies, enlarged eyes, reduced exposure to sunlight, and senses redesigned for darkness. Technology can preserve individuals, but a small, isolated population loses genetic variety. Over thousands of generations, fertility becomes the central crisis. The P-47 inherit extraordinary machines and failing bodies. Their nurseries contain more artificial systems and fewer children capable of surviving without intervention. The present contains what their future has lost: billions of fertile humans, broad genetic diversity, and biological pathways that have not yet collapsed. Within the theory, abduction stories become medical missions. The visitors are not studying an alien species, they are collecting biology from their own ancestors. Fear comes from perspective. We see an unfamiliar intruder in the dark. The intruder may see the last healthy version of its own family. To exist, P-47 must protect the history that creates the underground world. They can repair biology, but they cannot allow the catastrophe to disappear. The second branch develops beyond Earth. Lower gravity and controlled habitats change the body, but this population remains recognizably human and reproductively stable. On Mars, emergency shelters become cities. Agriculture, families, and institutions make P-52 numerous, autonomous, and less dependent on the biology of the past. Their greatest technology is not a faster engine. It is the ability to observe possible timelines and identify the decisions that create each one. Relativity connects gravity with the passage of time. The theory turns that relationship into engineering, distort the local field, and a date becomes reachable. This is where Eskridge research becomes part of the mythology. Real equations and speculative propulsion are extended far beyond anything publicly demonstrated. P-52 remembers the catastrophe as the loss of Earth and billions of lives. Preventing it is not exploration. To them, it is a moral obligation. Some versions connect the visitors to nuclear arsenals. A disabled launch system becomes the place where one small intervention could redirect an entire future. Military systems have produced failures and unexplained reports. None prove future humans were responsible. The theory simply assigns an invisible actor to uncertainty. P-47 must preserve the event. P-52 must prevent it. Neither branch can surrender without risking the conditions that allowed its civilization to exist. For the underground branch, altering history is existential violence. A safer present might erase every person born in the world beneath the surface. For the off-world branch, continuity cannot justify mass death. A different future is worth the risk, even if their own timeline becomes only one branch. Impossible acceleration is reinterpreted as control of the space around the vehicle. The craft does not cross a galaxy, it crosses the geometry of time. Some UAP reports describe unusual movement across air and water. Those observations do not identify an origin, a technology, or a future human pilot. The visitors would not come from a distant constellation. Their home has the same coordinates as ours, separated by thousands of years rather than light years. Our era matters because both branches can still emerge from it. Every intervention changes the path before either future becomes inevitable. A successful rescue creates the cruelest question in the story. Does the old future vanish or continue somewhere beyond the new branch of history? Eskridge mentioned ultraterrestrials, P-47, P-52, and humans from the future. Much of the detailed mythology appeared later in retellings across the internet. There is no verifiable paper defining the two populations, measuring their technology, or demonstrating that either group has ever entered the present. Underground cities, lunar colonies, DNA retrieval, and temporal war vary between accounts. A compelling narrative has grown around a very short recorded claim. Extreme anatomical change in 47,000 years would be difficult through natural evolution alone. It would require intense selection, engineering, or both. Repairing an infertile population would demand more than a sample from the past. Development, immunity, reproduction, and genetic compatibility would all matter. Time dilation is real and measured. Sending people and machines backward into history remains speculative, with no repeatable experiment showing it can be done. The Grey resembles an exaggerated future human, a larger skull, fragile body, enlarged eyes, and long hands. Similarity makes the theory emotionally powerful. Night visits, medical examinations, and reproductive interest become coherent inside one story. Coherence makes good mythology, but it does not make physical evidence. They would observe us as we study living fossils, with one critical difference. Their bodies and their history may still depend on what happens here. If a machine reshapes local space, violent acceleration might feel normal inside it. That idea explains the report, but explanation is not demonstration. The underground branch needs our biology and an intact timeline. It returns to recover what was lost, while protecting the disaster that caused the loss. The off-world branch needs a different decision. It returns to stop the event before Earth becomes a place that humanity must abandon. If every intervention creates a new branch, neither civilization is erased, but every correction multiplies the number of realities each side must understand. At the table, they are not judging an inferior species. Two descendants are arguing over which version of humanity has the right to inherit time. For P-47, the disaster is a horror and an origin. Preventing it means preventing every life still surviving beneath the future Earth. For P-52, survival on Mars does not excuse the destruction of the home world. Memory becomes a duty to interfere. Both futures possess knowledge and technology, only the present still possesses possibility. In the theory, that makes us valuable, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. A researcher made the statement, "Speculative propulsion research exists. Reports of unidentified objects exist. None of those facts demonstrates P-47 or P-52. A sample, a document, a measurable device, or a repeatable prediction would change the discussion. Without them, this remains a narrative theory. Even if the story is false, its two choices are real: adapt after collapse or act early enough to prevent collapse from defining us. That is why the idea survives without proof. It transforms the alien from an invader into a consequence, looking backward at the choices of its ancestors.